Right, let's get started. Thank you for attending this talk, seminar this afternoon. I appreciate time is getting on and people are getting away, and we have a really great guest speaker after me, which I really want to see. So if you start to leave early, I won't be offended by it. And I'm conscious of the subject that I'm talking about as well, but for me, this is something that has kind of taken over my life in the last couple of years. My name is Johnathon Reardon. I work at North Yorkshire Police, and I'm a talent advisor. Whatever that means these days, it pretty much means I work in recruitment. So for me, yes, this has taken my life over the last few years, and it's burnt me out at times, but I truly believe in it and feel like it's the right thing to do, and what we kind of will go through in the next 20 minutes. For me, is just, all I would say if you take away something from today is just to look at things differently, look at them through a different lens, find out your own information, find out your own truth, don't rely on one particular source. And yes, I believe I'm the only one talking about diversity today. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. It's a very tricky subject. It's one that a lot of people kind of shy away from talking about, and I get that, and I understand that. And we'll go through some interesting slides that touch on unconscious bias and positive action, because I think we need to discuss them. And it's something that we need to openly discuss within recruitment, within HR, with hiring managers, with our internal workforce. And I understand I'm a 34-year-old white male, white British, heterosexual male talking about diversity. I get it. I know what you're thinking. He looks really well for 34. So for me, I'm just conscious of where I stand because I'll interrupt the slides. So diversity, inclusion and diversity go together quite well. They are totally separate though for me. So you can have diversity in your organization, but it doesn't mean that you have inclusion. So you see a lot of organizations, and in particular police forces, I see a lot with police forces where they're promoting diversity, they're using lots of different people in their imagery, on websites, in booklets, and on the face of it, it looks like they've got it nailed. But when you dig a little deeper, that's when you start to find out some more information, and it's probably not what it looks like on the outside. So this is with my kind of cake. Is there a cake on there? Can you see a cake? Oh, the cake's coming next. Don't worry about the cake. Cake's good, but we'll get there. So for me, yes, you've got to have structure, because you can go and recruit and you can bring diversity into your organization, but there's other things that go with it. If you don't have an inclusive environment, you don't have that culture in place, people will leave and they'll find that out very quickly. So what's worked well for me in my organization in the past couple of years is having that structure there. And yes, we've got senior leaders that live it day to day, and it's took time to get there, but we can all influence this, whether we're an apprentice, whether we're an administrator, whether we're a senior manager, whoever we are, we can impact this in a positive way. And that's by promoting these inclusive behaviors, educating ourselves and removing barriers, because there are massive barriers at play even before someone starts to apply for your organization. And from what I've found, externally, for me, is where we've had a lot of success. It's internally where the issues have been, and I find that incredibly frustrating that there's internal barriers, and it feels like there's not an awful lot we can do about it. And in particular in policing, we're seen as, not the most progressive, innovative of organizations, and that for me is really frustrating part, which I've challenged openly, and I encourage people to challenge. And at the end of the day, what do you want to be seen as doing? Just letting things pass you by? Not speaking up, not challenging things, or really believing in something and trying to drive this through, and standing up and saying things in meetings, or looking at recruitment process and speaking to your hiring managers and maybe educating them a little bit more. So having courage again is important. This isn't for your inclusion and diversity coordinators, your positive action coordinators, your support networks. It's not up to them to drive. We all need to influence this and work together. We can achieve great things if we work together. But what I can see at the minute in many organizations, particularly my own in the last couple of years, is we isolate ourselves. We have our own agendas and we work in silos, and it doesn't help. And it takes quite a lot of time to break down these internal barriers and get to where we want to be. So this is my cake slide. So for me, culture isn't them things. I think that's something that you can include into your adverts, and people come in and it's materialistic things that wear off quite quickly. We've lost staff in my team because of lack of progression, lack of opportunity. They've gone into other organizations and they've sent me messages and Snapchatted me. Look what I've got on my first day, a nice coffee cup, I get free coffee, it's funky breakout areas, and a pool table. That's great, fantastic. I appreciate that. Oh, and 50% off Domino's was one that I heard quite a lot about. These wear thin quite quickly, so this isn't what culture is for me, because the cake description there is, you see your organization as a cake. On the outside, it can seem like you're selling something that's great. It's appealing, it looks good, but people will find out very quickly if, when they take a bite, it will taste awful. You know, I think of Bake Off, when someone cooks a really nice cake and it looks on the outside that they've nailed it, and they put it down in front of the judges, and then you start to see them get really nervous because they think as soon as they take a bite, they're going to realize that I've used salt in that mix instead of sugar, and they'll find out very quickly that it tastes awful. It's the same within our organizations. We can say that we offer this and we offer that, and it can be these types of things. But when people come in, they'll find out very quickly that it's not true, and that's where that inclusive environment, that culture is important to us. Maybe unpopular slide, maybe popular, I don't know. So in 2015, Theresa May said these things about police forces. In particular, North Yorkshire Police was one of the 4 forces that's listed there. And this was before I joined, and I totally understand them comments, because you need that level of visibility and that level of criticism to maybe take something on board and do something differently, because we'll all go about our day-to-day business and not really take a look at this unless, you know, it's raised at that level. You know, if I don't do something, someone gives me a nudge, I don't do it, it goes to my boss, oh my God, I've got to get it done. It's this same kind of detail, really. So Theresa May had all of these stats about police forces, and some of them were accurate, some of them weren't, because as we know, in the work that we do, you don't need to disclose your diversity data. Me as a candidate and HR systems, you know, I can say that it's not stated information. I can say, I don't have to disclose that I'm male, I don't have to disclose all of that detail. So what we provided to the government was accurate in a way, but it wasn't the full picture. So you've got to kind of dig a little deeper here. And on one hand, I agree. On the other hand, you know, there's a lot more underneath that. A lot of people that didn't disclose data, so it's not as it seems, but I totally appreciate. So when we look at data and we look at isolated data, I could well do my own data sets if I wanted and pick apart certain areas and have my own view and own opinions on it. And that's what I did. So I only used the best pictures of Theresa May, by the way. This is my personal favorite. And I know she's got enough on her plate at the minute, so I don't want to kind of poke any more in that area. So on the face of it, North Yorkshire Police appears more diverse than Theresa May's government. And these are stats that I obtained a few months ago. And that's great for North Yorkshire Police, but we were named and shamed. So this is what data can do in isolation. So you need to drill a little bit deeper to understand your workforce and what's at play there. And at the end of the day, I would love to just go away from statistics like this and go away from the terminologies of BME and LGBT. But it's going to take time to get there. And we need, I guess, in a way, to show that we are achieving in certain areas. So whether there's quotas or you know, percentages that are there, I don't necessarily agree with them, but I guess we need to showcase where we're at some stage. So yeah, I just wanted to put that slide up there. But for me, I could take it a step further. I don't want it to turn this into a Twitter storm or anything like that, but you could say that if Theresa May had more diversity in her government, that would lend better to innovation, more ideas, fresh perspective. We might not be in the position that we're in with Brexit if we had a diverse government in play. It's just my opinion, not that of North Yorkshire Police. I want to distance myself from that. Anyway, quickly moving on. So positive action, again, something that's, I would say, overtaken my life in the last year. It's something that really kind of frustrates me in that I've spoke to people, I've spoke to officers within the police that don't understand this, that don't get it, and deep down, they just think that positive action is progressing BME candidates only and lowering standards and giving them answers to questions and fast-tracking them, and that is not the case. But we don't help ourselves when you see tribunals and all these types of things that are in the press where it's quick to jump on the negativity. And it's because we're using positive action in the wrong way. So for me, ways that we can use this are within policing, within particular environments, within our control room, our 999 control room. We have a lack of language in that control room, but we have communities within North Yorkshire, Nepalese, Polish, Turkish. We don't have them languages within our control room, so when people call in, we have to outsource that to like a language line and pay for that. Surely we would want to have them languages within our own workforce to leverage them, to use them in the right way. So through positive action, we could do something around that to promote these roles to those groups and encourage that in terms of events, engagement. That's the way I see it. But in truth, North Yorkshire Police has done that, but we open it to everyone. Because I think you can get that, you can achieve that through just being open and transparent with your processes. And that's where a lot of success from North Yorkshire Police has come from, just opening our doors to people, inviting them into our environments. Because coming in for an interview in the police force is one of them things where it's quite uncomfortable. I came into North Yorkshire Police, I was interviewed at police headquarters. I walked into reception, I sat down. It said that the threat level was severe. I was sat in front of bulletproof glass in reception, and then a guy walked in with a shotgun. And at that time, everything's going around in my head, I was in no position to undertake an interview at that point, but there's a firearms licensing team that sits within headquarters, so all he was doing was trying to deal with that side of things. But it put me on the back foot, and that's what made me uncomfortable. So we've got a lot to kind of learn with positive action and how it affects different people, whether that is a language, whether that is no support structure from family, whether it is due to maternity, whether it is disability. For us as an organisation, when I joined, we were a disability confident 2 ticks scheme. We had those logos on our website, but we didn't do anything. And I don't know if that's for you, the same for you in your organisations, where you think, it's a tick in the box, we put it on there, we're Stonewall, we're disability confident, we're a good recruitment campaign, but what are you doing beneath the surface to live that? And what I found was not an awful lot. We ask if they want any reasonable adjustments, that's about it. And I've interviewed people and I've spoke to people in the last couple of years, and they say, well, I didn't really want to make a big deal out of the fact that I wanted to be interviewed on the ground floor, or I wanted to request about parking, about disability parking, things like that. And we need to make sure people are comfortable to want to talk about that openly, and they don't feel that they're inconveniencing people and they might have a tick against their name. That's what we want to distance ourselves from, and I think it kind of, we have that within our power, and we have the ability to do that by just talking to people and understanding. And you can go away and have a look at your process if you want to, and you genuinely have the passion to do that. And I think that's what it all boils down to, is just passion and determination to do what's right. So this is where positive action has gone wrong. On the left, police force that discriminated against a white heterosexual male, the first discrimination case of its kind, I believe, because they basically got the recruitment process wrong, and they tried to implement positive action, but in a totally strange way. And they had a strict kind of pass or fail. And the candidate in this case was told that they performed exceptionally well, I believe, and were well prepared, but they weren't offered the role. And what had happened is that roles were offered to BME candidates. And this is what is happening when there's so much pressure on police forces and other organisations to improve their diversity, is that they're not thinking it through, they're not using it in the right way, and they're trying to make shortcuts. And there might not be any discrimination there, but you can see what the issues are. And now it seems to work both ways. So people just seem to be afraid to do anything, to talk about it, to just be open and honest, which I think is a shame. And not to leave North Yorkshire Police out of this at all. In the past, we had something similar where we tried to use positive action but didn't really understand it. And in the end, we ended up inconveniencing and affecting a candidate that was going for promotion, who probably shouldn't have gone for promotion, but we tried to make sure that we allowed him to go for promotion, even though he wasn't ready. And there was no support structure in place there, as well as other things. So we've learned from that. We've completely torn apart our promotions process internally. We've invited our support networks in. We've broken it down completely and tried to then build it up and break it again. So we know that it is fit for purpose. And this is the issue. We say, oh, we've done it that way. We've always done it that way. And this is what happens. So for me, educate yourself. And this is an interesting slide because, yes, we have bias. It's natural. I've got bias. But I try not to let that get in the way of what I do in my job. So I think it's normal to have that, but to understand how it might influence your recruitment or your promotion or other things in your organization. So these are headlines kind of leading up to Brexit. And you cannot tell me that this does not have an effect on your organization in whatever process that you've got going on, because it's so easy to be kind of led and have opinions on this. You know, who is approving that? Who is writing that? What is going on there? It doesn't seem right to me, and it makes you have an opinion. And I've seen it with managers when we've rolled out training, that they say to me, how can you have a black police association? Why don't you have a white police association? And this is seasoned, experienced officers that want to do that and want to say that. And it's a total worry for me. We do technically have a white police association because our organization is 97% white British. So in itself, these are worrying comments coming out of our managers. What happens if they have someone from a different culture come into their team, and this is how they think, and this is how they are openly talking to people within their organization? It's a big concern. So what I would say is, go away. Don't read the newspapers, the same newspapers, and go and watch Russia Today on one day. Go and watch a different news channel to see how other people are reporting things, because what you see isn't always right. It's heavily influenced. You know, for instance, what I would say is what I learn is when I think of Nazis from school and from what we learn, I go to concentration camps. But Winston Churchill set up concentration camps in the 50s in Africa. Didn't know that, but he's meant to be the greatest Briton of all time. Not to say anything against that, but we don't know what we don't know. We're taught these things in school, and we're taught other things, or we're not taught other things. So it's just to build that knowledge and perspective from other areas and not buy into this, because I have seen it affect recruitment processes, and it all has a knock-on effect, and you wonder why you're not getting diversity into your organization. This is a really good image. I love this image. What people usually say is kind of what's going on there. Is it a celebration? Is it to do with religion? Is it a family gathering? Are they meeting at an airport? What is going on? This is a team of female engineers that successfully launched a probe to Mars, and you don't hear about it. Why not? It's quite a powerful image. It's probably, you know, page 20, 30, 40 of a newspaper, a small article. And this is powerful, this is inspiring, this is impactful. When you think of the gap between male and female engineers in that field, it's male-dominated. So this is a huge inspirational story that we should be sharing and should be promoting. For young females, or for young females of that background, that is massive. Shows you what you can do. You're not stereotyped, not pigeonholed to go into certain careers. Why not go and do that? If they can do it, you can do it. And this is what we need to share in our own organizations, is these success stories, which we kind of shy away from and we don't promote. So I think that's powerful. And the knock-on effect from that is that you see repeating patterns. So for me, I follow a lot of sport. I get a lot of my ideas and things from sport. And only 2.6% of all permanent managers in the Premier League history are of a BME background. And these are similar percentages that you see throughout. They're always 1s, 2s, 3s, up to maybe like 6%-ish. And it's the same, less than 0.5% Fortune 500 CEOs are LGBT. Why is that? Is that always going to be like that? I don't think it's going to increase that significantly. And the same with female CEOs. There's more, I definitely heard, there's more CEOs in the US in the top 500 called John than there are females that are CEOs, which is staggering. And that's probably not going to change much. And it's increased slightly over the recent years, but we need to drill down deeper and think, so why is it like that? Why is there less opportunity? What is in the way? Because people just say, oh, well, the best people get the jobs. You know, how they perform an interview, they get the jobs. I don't necessarily agree with that because I've seen it. I've seen it happen. So again, we need to look at what we can do. And if it's an intervention, if it's positive action, whatever it is to make this difference, then I'm all for it. Leading from the front. So Iceland, in 75, they had a massive strike. Within 5 years, they elected their first, democratically elected woman leader. And for the last kind of 10 years, they've been reaping the benefits of that. So if if a country can do this and lead the way and have this in place, why can't my organization that has just over 3,000 people not follow that and not be inspired to do that? Surely we wouldn't have to do something on the same level as that, but it takes people to go against the grain and do something differently and have the passion and determination to do it. And we all have the ability to do that, I truly believe. You can go back, you can voice something in your board meetings. Our inclusion and diversity board meetings are horrendous. They happen quarterly, and what they do basically in the meeting is, right, let's review the minutes from the last meeting 3 months ago. They spend an hour doing that, then they have a little chat, and people are talking away on their laptops, then they forget what's happened, and then they say, right, we'll reconvene in 3 months' time. And then they'll recap the previous 3 months. So nothing gets anywhere, and it's a slow process, and it doesn't go anywhere. So that's what frustrates me. You've got the ability to go and do it. Have your specialists in recruitment, retention, progression, development, leaving the service with dignity, and let people own that, and that are passionate about it, go and do it and make a change. And that's what we try to do at North Yorkshire Police, is have this in place. This is a really interesting slide. It's incorporating the Rooney Rule. So in 2003, the NFL set this up, and it was that they had to interview diverse candidates for head coach positions because of a lack of diversity. And when you think about the diversity within the teams in the NFL, there is a huge amount of black players in the NFL, but no black coaches, no black managers. And it's the same in English football and international football as well. So what they did is they put this rule in 2003, and it had a massive effect on the diversity of the head coach positions. And I believe it's something that the Premier League and the national team are looking at doing now. So again, why is the women's football team have a male coach? Can Premier League teams, Football League teams have a female manager or female coach at some point in time? How long is it going to take to get there? Why do we need a male coach for the national women's team? Again, just putting it out there. Engagement surveys, so something that North Yorkshire Police has done really well at the minute is our engagement surveys. So we do them at 30, 90, 365 days. And it gives us feedback on our recruitment process, what's good, what's bad, again, what we can improve on. After 90 days, that's that bedding in period, that onboarding period. Do they have the right tools, equipment to carry out their role? How is their induction with the team, with the manager, all these things. 365 is where the interesting things come out. So it's about progression opportunities, training. Do they feel that they fit into this environment? Have they had any issues with management? So we're able to pull apart then, is it particular departments that we're seeing patterns and trends with? And then are people leaving our organization? Is it due to location, salary? Is it due to bad management? Is it due to lack of progression? Is it the culture? So we're extracting this culture piece from these surveys, and we're able to benchmark that by our Net Promoter Score. And what we're seeing is it starts good, starts to tail off, and by the 365 it's dipping. So we're able to actually kind of positively affect that. Another thing that we've done to improve kind of cultural awareness is with Ramadan this year and the previous year, going back a number of years before that, it used to be just kind of an internal post, and you used to get something pop up on the screen and it said, you know, Ramadan, but not a lot with it. So is that just a tick in the box exercise? What are we doing internally to promote this, to raise awareness? Because for me today, I've had about 5 cups of coffee, and I get super cranky if I don't have my coffee. So I can't imagine what it's like to fast for 18 hours, and to come to an event like this today is a struggle, and the concentration levels. And I appreciate that, I really do. But how does that affect someone going for an interview, or a half a day or a day assessment? How does it affect someone trying to do a fitness test or a medical? I wouldn't want that to be the case. So we have to be flexible. So this year, what we've done when we've launched our police officer and our community support officer campaign, we've done 2 weeks in Ramadan and 2 weeks out. So it allows people the ability to apply and concentrate purely on that, because it's a really important time. It is a really important time for them, and we don't want to have issues there. So for the first time ever, we've done that, and we have the ability to do that. You have the ability to do it as well. So we've also encouraged our PCs as well to share what it means to them. So we've got kind of daily blogs and daily posts throughout the duration. And I've encouraged my team to get involved, and we are actually There's something that we've got booked in so we can break fast at certain police stations together and understand those cultural differences, which I think is massively important. Our recruitment results over the past couple of years, so the trend line along the bottom, going back to like 2005, 2000, we were always at kind of 1% BME officers, and it never progressed until recently. And I truly believe the reason for that is because we have not segregated in terms of recruitment and workshops. We've made it all inclusive. So we've invited people in, we've done launch events at HQ, we've had our chief open it, we've had support networks there, we've invited everyone in to experience what North Yorkshire Police is about, and we've done it in a positive way that is inclusive and includes everyone. And it's been a really personable one-to-one approach because we can do that as a force. And what's happened now is we've reaped the benefits because people are seeing us as a progressive force, and people are actually wanting to transfer to North Yorkshire from other forces because they believe in what we're doing, and they can see that we're leading in the right way and we're promoting in the right way, and people are feeling valued. But it's a massive journey. It's a massive journey. It's going to take time to get there. Diversity doesn't happen overnight, neither does inclusion. So we need to stop maybe putting so much pressure on ourselves to do it, because that's where the mistakes can happen. And not to kind of big North Yorkshire Police up in any way, we are still average in many areas, and it's the negativity that's the issue. So negativity for me is where the groups isolate themselves, and you don't have our LGBT network seeing eye to eye with our Black Police Association. And we've got people that are trying really hard to make that work, and some people that are determined to drag that down. So we need to deal with that negativity because people are just going to burn themselves out. You know, this is a long journey, this is a massive process, and it's a lot of time and effort, and it can be undone very quickly. The retention piece is something that we haven't done very well. I think we had 10 completed exit surveys done last year out of about 500-600. Not good enough, not good enough. Why are people leaving? Is it culture, is it managers, is it pay, is it location? We don't know, so we've completely redesigned that, and that's a work in progress. Education. Educating our line managers, be flexible to your candidates. Look at those with disability, look at those returning to work from maternity that have been out of the workforce, that have lost confidence, and coming back into the organisation. We need to support them. We need to support them through it. It's a massive piece of work. And progression. So again, we don't even have a progression programme in place, let alone those for certain groups and protected characteristics. And I hate using that term, but it's true. So I spoke to someone earlier, and they went, my old boss, and he was here, and he said he went on a BME leadership program, and when he went into the room, everyone was black, and he felt awful, and he felt they've just put us into a room and give us this program, etc., etc. And I said that's not the right way to do it because you're further segregating people. You need to address that and do that in the right way because that is further isolating people. So whether that's a positive action initiative, do it in the right way and do it what is right for your organisation and speak to people first. It is all communication related. And what I would say finally, just to kind of close, I haven't got my watch on, I don't know why I looked at my wrist, is be brave. It shouldn't just be on those people from those underrepresented groups to drive this because they will burn out and they will become negative and frustrated, and I've seen it happen. Everyone needs to chip in and everyone needs to say the right thing. Whether you get an interview pack back from a manager and it says, this person is 18, I'm not recruiting them, sorry. Dig a little deeper, this is someone that's volunteered with us for 4 years and been a cadet leader and is Polish, speaks 3 languages, and we turned her down. We're happy to have her as a volunteer and unpaid, but we won't give her a paid job. That's how I saw it. So I challenged the manager, challenged it further, took it as far as I could go. We kept her on track, and then she did eventually come in. But for me, you can't put that on an interview pack. You can't, if I'm going to give feedback to someone and I allow them to read that and they have a freedom of information request, how is that going to go? This is how you get yourselves into trouble with the employment tribunals. So be brave enough to say if it doesn't look right, do something about it. Educate your workforce, unconscious bias, positive action. The negativity, again, I've already touched on, is huge. It just makes people burn out and want to leave the organisation, and I can see that. You can innovate in public sector, you can innovate in policing. We've done this, we've held various events, workshops. We have a cultural awareness week that's in place for our police officers now. So they go out in one of their training weeks and they go to mosques and they meet community members And we invite them community members to be part of our interview panels for future police officers. So there is that diversity on the panels as well. And celebrate. When people are working hard and they're achieving, and like that Indian space picture that I had, you need to celebrate this, because people will lose interest and they won't feel valued and they won't feel that their ideas are welcome and they can use them and progress, and they will leave. And it's such a simple thing to do, is to celebrate that success. So for me, that's incredibly important. And I know some of you are starting to inch away and want to go, and I can see the time is 3:30. So is there any other questions?